Hello, friends and neighbors. How are you? It's been a while since I've made a video, but I just wanted to tell you about a series that I'm going to be talking about on the book of Revelation. And I had studied Revelation extensively last year, and my goal was to prove one of the rapture theories. And we'll be talking about how many there are the main ones anyway, in just a minute. And after several months of studying, I did not arrive at a conclusion. Now, I kind of have a gut instinct on what I think it's going to be, but that's all I have. I found that there are verses that sound like they will work for all the different theories. So I can see where each theory has scriptural support, but I also see that there are verses that sound like, nope, there's no way that could be. So, and I was raised pre-trib, and my mother was a wonderful teacher, and she taught the book of Revelations. But it's just, I just can't see all the scriptures that can support any one theory as much stronger than the other one. So I decided I'm going to go through it all again. And so I actually wasn't even thinking about doing Revelations now, because I've been doing a Zoom class. We've been talking about the Old Testament and things like that. And about the law of Moses and different things about the Old Testament. We're getting ready to talk about the feast. And let me silence this so we won't get those. But last week, I just felt like something told me to read through Revelations again. And I thought, well, I don't want to do that. I have too much other stuff going. I thought it was just me telling me. Because I'm doing the read through the whole Bible thing. So I've been trying to study a lot in Genesis, and then I'm working on a couple other of study projects, and I thought I don't want to add one more to it, and I'm trying to stay focused. So the next day I felt like the same thing, like you need to go back to Revelations again. And so I thought, well, maybe it's the Lord sending me to Revelations. So I grabbed my Bible, and I don't remember what day this was. And I sat there and I read through the whole thing, and I was just captivated. It was the clearest that Revelations has ever been to me. Although I do still have questions. And I did not go back and look at the other passages that speak of the last days in the Bible. I did nothing but look at Revelations. And I wanted to do that because the words in Revelation, I keep calling it Revelations. The book is Revelation. The words come from God. They are straight from God. God told Jesus to tell them to John. It went from God to Jesus to an angel to John and to us. So these are straight from the mouth of God. And so I thought, I don't want to read what Paul said about it or what Matthew said about it, although what Matthew said is the words of Jesus too. I don't want to look at the prophets yet. I'm just going to look at what God said to tell the people. So I ended up with some notes and a list of questions. And then I found out that a friend of mine who is a very good Bible studier also had some questions about it. And so I thought that I would see if the Zoom class wanted to do Revelations when we got done. And we'll be done in a couple weeks. And so then I thought, I know there's a lot of people, I've heard people say they don't understand it, so they don't even read it. And so I thought, well, I'll open it up and see if anybody else would want to join the Zoom class. But I know that some people can't do the Zoom classes, or they don't understand it. And so then I was torn. Do I do some videos or do I do the Zoom? So I feel like I'm supposed to do both. So what I'm going to do is the week beginning Monday, February the 14th, which is Valentine's Day. That week, I'm going to post several videos during the week, like every other day, every day. It just depends. But usually every week I will post between 3 and 5 videos. And I'm going to try to just do one chapter every video. It just depends on if the chapters run into each other and I need to break it up. But I'm going to try not to make the videos very long. So then once a week, we're going to have the Zoom class, and then anybody who wants to join in can come in and we will discuss the videos and what you have read. If you read along with where I'm covering the videos, and we can discuss it and ask questions of each other and things like that. Because right now the Zoom videos are more of me teaching, and I want them to be interactive. I don't want me to be the main person talking. I want everyone to participate if they want to, or if you just want to listen to the others participate. So we're going to do that. So that starts the week of Monday, February the 14th, and that will give me time to get a couple of weeks ahead on the videos and have them prepared. So if something comes up, I don't get behind. So I'm just going to give you a little introduction to what we're going to talk about. Oh, let me set my stand up again. There are several different views about Revelations. And I'm just going to go over those real quick. The first one is the Preterist View. That means that Revelations is about everything that has already happened in the past. So all those things you read in Revelations, they say, it's already been done, already happened. They say that John wrote this book before 70 AD when the temple was destroyed, and that most of the terrible things are just about the temple being destroyed and about Jerusalem burning. So the key to this, they believe that the Bible's history has already fulfilled all these prophecies, and it's already happened. Another view is the historicist view. They believe that from the 1st century on, each generation's history fulfilled these prophecies. So like World War I, World War II, all of the things that happened from 100 AD on. They believe those things fulfilled the things that are talked about in Revelation. Then the Futurist View, which I think is what most of us believe, is that everything that John said, except possibly the letters, the first 3 chapters, the letters to the generations, or the congregations in Asia, that most of what John said was talking about what happened in the future. And that's actually exactly what the angel told him, that he was getting ready to tell him what is now, what was, what is now, and what is coming in the future. And then there is a view called the redemptive historical idealist view, or short, just the idealist view. And they believe that the entire book of Revelation is symbolism and allegory, that it is not about these things are actually going to happen like that. So the next thing we want to talk about is that there are different rapture theories. And there's not a lot of information about what people would point to as the rapture. There is some. And when you look at it, it doesn't seem like it can be explained away by anything other than a rapture. But in spite of that, there are people who believe there will be no rapture. So there are four, most people just say three, but there are four different theories on when the rapture will take place. The first one is pre-tribulation. So they believe there is a 7-year tribulation period and that the rapture happens before that. In other words, the rapture is when God will come and take all the believers and remove them from the planet before God zaps everybody else and takes care of the devil and the demons and all those things. So that's pre-tribulation. They believe God will take us out before the tribulation starts, before the 7-year period starts. And we'll talk about where the 7-year period comes from as well. The next one is called the mid-trib. Mid-tribbers believe, and that's mid-tribulation, they believe that about halfway through the 7-year period is when Jesus will come and take the believers away for the remaining 3.5 years. And then he'll come back in judgment and wrath and all that. Then there's the pre-wrath, and that's also kind of like mid-trib, but a little different. And then there is post-trib. Now, I think there are several different opinions about post-trib. Some people believe that there will be a rapture, but it will be at the end or closer to the end. Then there are those who believe there will be no rapture, that Jesus does not come and take us away. We are left here on earth. We're all left here on earth. And then he takes the bad people away and throws them in the lake of fire. So those are the four main opinions. And let me tell you, people get really bent out of shape over their opinion, and if everyone doesn't agree with it, which I find, I don't know, I think it's a little sad that believers would fight over something like this. But we are not going to, I'm not going to support any one opinion or any one theory over the other. And when we go through Revelations, and we're going to kind of do verse by verse, we'll skip some verses that, aren't significant. We're going to look at what some of the theories say it means. But if it does not specifically say that in the scripture, we're going to say, this scripture does not say that, but people believe that what happens here is unspoken. So I'm going to try to be very honest about what the scripture says. And then at different points as we go through it, we will go back and look at the prophecies that refer to that, because people kind of inaccurately think that Revelation is about what is coming in the future, and that is true. But the most important part is that all of this has already been foretold in the Old Testament by the prophets. So the book of Revelation is really just showing that what the prophets talked about, what God told the prophets to say to Israel and to the world, is coming to pass. So Revelation is about what has been foretold is going to happen. And they're just giving us more details. God is just sending down a few more details about it. And I will be honest, there are some details that we just don't know yet. And if people say they know it, they're guessing, because there are things that are left out. And I think that as the time gets closer, and I believe we're close, but I think as each of these events get closer, we're going to have more knowledge about it. I believe that the Lord will reveal things to us to help us to be prepared if it's something that we are going to go through. And so I think it should be very interesting. And I've already had quite a few people say that they're interested. So I'm going to work it out. So if you want to be in on the Zoom meeting, you can. But it's also going to be available as pre-recorded videos. And there will be portions of scripture that you can read ahead of time, either before the video or after it, just so You can kind of study along with it and do your own research. And I think it should be a lot of fun. It should be very interesting. And there is a blessing. God said that there is a special blessing for anyone who reads this and obeys it. So we need to understand what it's telling us to do if we're going to obey it and get that blessing. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. So we will start that the week of February the 14th. I'll start posting videos and I'll let you know ahead of time that they're coming and what chapters to read for that week if you'd like to do that. I'm also going to have links already for the first video, which is kind of I'll go over the introduction, some of the things we talked about today, and we're going to go over chapter 1. So on the first video, I'm going to give you a link to a page that goes into more detail about the different views of Revelation, the preterist, the historicist, the futurist, and the other one. So I'm going to give you a link where it goes into a lot more detail so you can read up on that yourself. And then one other thing I forgot to mention is that I believe it's hard to have an accurate interpretation of Revelation without looking at what the prophets said, without knowing about the culture and the history. And that's because there are 500 allusions to the Old Testament in the book of Revelations. And by allusions, I mean John is just, whoever told it, all the words that he says, they are just alluding to things that were spoken of in the Old Testament. And we have to remember that God is working through a man, John, and he works with what John is capable of. Now, Paul gives many exact quotes in his letters to the Old Testament. But Paul was an Old Testament expert. He was a rabbi. He was taught by the best of the best. And he was very, very knowledgeable. He was a top-level expert on the Old Testament and the Jewish rabbinical laws. John was a fisherman, so he doesn't quote exact scripture for scripture, but he speaks of these references in the Old Testament because he has knowledge of them, because he has heard them, and he heard the teachings of Jesus. So I'm going to give you a list of those 500 references back to the Old Testament, and we're going to explore some of them in depth so we can better understand exactly what they're talking about. And let me give you one example. Do you know in chapter 6 in Revelations, it talks about the souls who had given their life for God, because of God and because of following the Father. And they see them, John sees them under the altar in heaven, which sounds kind of odd. And so people say that that is the martyrs from the tribulation. But it doesn't say that. It says they're martyrs, but it doesn't say that they're from the tribulation. And the reason we know that they're not from the tribulation necessarily is because it was a Hebrew and Jewish thing to think of souls of the martyrs under the altar. All through the rabbinical writings for centuries and centuries and centuries, they talk about the martyrs, the souls of the martyrs that are under the throne of God. So that's a Jewish thing. That's a Hebrew culture thing that we aren't aware of that kind of explains what they're talking about there. So that means that's not actually saying these are tribulation martyrs. It's saying all the martyrs of mankind, all the martyrs who died for the sake of God, that they see them there in heaven. So it's kind of interesting when you know a little bit more about the Hebrew culture and their history. It kind of makes things a little clearer in Revelation. So I'm hoping And I haven't ran down all these Old Testament references yet. So we're going to do that together, and I'm hoping it answers the questions that I have about Revelation. I have them written down, and I hope that it will answer some of the questions that you have. And as you read, I want you to write down the questions you have. Things that just don't sound right with what you've been taught, or things that just don't sound right when you read it. And so together, I think we'll learn a lot, and I think this is a good time to kind of know what might be coming so we can be a little more prepared. So I love you all very much, and I think it'll be fun, and I will let you know ahead of time when the first video will be posted, the week of February the 14th. And have a good evening.